It's like, don't you dare say that. Don't ever say that.
Yeah. Like, if you think positive thoughts, things will get better. Now, it will get better. I do believe that. But what I thought might be useful is for us to listen to a few kinds of things that is toxic positivity and that isn't helpful. And I know myself that I've said these things at times to people wanting to be helpful, trying to help their suffering when actually I'm just minimizing it, you know. So the types of things, and sometimes we say these things to ourselves, so you might speak to yourself in this way, or you might speak to other people trying to be helpful, and it's always done with the best intention, you know. But so dismissive statements, so some examples of that is, just don't worry about it, you're overthinking, or at least they're in a better place. So if somebody's passed away, you know, so you lost your dog recently, didn't you?
Yeah,
So
in
it's
June.
like, while you were upset, I was like, oh well, he's in a better place, and I know you believe that, but it's not really my place to say that, you know.
Yeah, when you're raw, it's not a good time. You know, and obviously afterwards, because I'm very spiritual, it did actually help me heal to tell myself that. But on the day of, or, you know, very shortly after it, it's like, don't you dare say that. Don't ever say that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I agree 100%.
Yeah, you need the time to process it, don't you, before you're ready to look at it in that way. So it's about giving yourself the space to have the emotion, isn't it? If we try and throw a comment like that in, it's like putting a plaster on the wound before it's had air to breathe, you know. Another one is, let's all focus on good things, or you should be happy you have a roof over your head, or you've got a job, or that you've got a family, or whatever it is. So it's like silver lining people's lives. Yeah, sometimes I've got a little bit of fluff going, that's why I go like this. There's a little fluff in front of my head. If you're wondering why I'm waving. Other types of comments we might say are invalidating comparisons. So that's when we compare something to something else. So, or ourselves to other people, or we compare the person who's suffering with somebody else. So
Yeah, like I used to do that myself, you know, if somebody had a problem, I'm like, yeah, this happened to me too. And I kind of started to learn that's not how you have a conversation. Somebody's in pain. It's not here, it's not tit for tat, like, do you know what I mean? So literally, if somebody is going through something, it's not you kind of in competition going, I was through something worse. You
yeah.
kind of, let them have their moment, let them be in
And
the moment. This is their time.
I think as a neurospicy person, that's something that I've really had to unlearn, because neurospicy people often, not all of us, but we show empathy by matching the story. And it's like it's not trying to talk over their story. What it is, it's like, I hear you.
Yeah.
We're trying to say, I hear you, I feel your pain, I've been there. Which probably just saying, oh, I hear you, I feel you would be much better than matching
Yeah,
their
I had
story,
to unlearn that behavior as well. Really did, like, and now I just sit in full space and let the person speak. It's not my stage right now. You know, you have to kind of understand that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Other things that people might say, and I've said this to myself a lot, actually, that other people have it worse. And it's true, and I think when we're practicing gratitude, it's a great place to look for where you can be grateful if you're struggling to be grateful. But when somebody's in an emotion, that's not a great thing to say.
No.
Yeah. And that's including yourself. This is important, like, because I used to, you know, I remember I used to get really frustrated with myself for being depressed, because I was like, why are you depressed? Like, other people have got it worse. Like, why, you know? And I wasn't allowing myself to feel the way I did.
Yeah, that's it. You punish yourself for feeling it, but then you don't feel it, and then you're bottling and bottling and bottling, which is unhealthy, as we spoke about. So, you know, and I already just said this, like, you know, my fear is if I stay in the depression, it's going to consume me. But we can release it quicker if we feel it. You know, we can. If we face it and feel it, we can let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. So other ones are shaming negativity. So things like, oh, you're being too negative, cheer up, or saying things like, we only have good vibes, you know. And having unrealistic expectations. So one is everything happens for a reason, and whether that's your belief or not, you've got to bear in mind it might not be somebody else's belief.
Yeah.
But
And there's a right time for it.
It can be really unhelpful when somebody is not yet ready to hear something like that, because they haven't yet processed the grief or whatever they're going through. So I actually had a friend years ago who very sadly lost her son, and she talked to me about it. I didn't say this to her, but that she said she hated it when people say everything happens for a reason, because in her experience of the world, there's no way she could place that comment with the loss of her son. And that's understandable, isn't it? So it's being aware that, you know, other people might have a different view of the world, or might have a reason that will particularly, even though it's like it might be about something completely different. So I could go up to that person and they might have, I don't know, maybe their pram broke, and I could say, oh, everything happens for a reason. Maybe you were supposed to have a new pram or something like that. So it's completely not connected to the loss of her other child or whatever, but that it's going to poke that feeling, isn't it? So when somebody's in an emotional place, we've got to be very careful about this unrealistic expectation thing. Like, if you think positive thoughts, things will get better. Now, it will get better. I do believe that. But if you can't just say think positive thoughts when somebody's in a dark place, you know, there's got to be more work done. That's why coaches are really great, because they can help you work through that stuff, so you're in a better place to be able to express gratitude and focus on the positive thoughts. Because no matter where you are in your growth journey, you're gonna have both types of thoughts. It's just where you choose to put your energy. If you get a negative thought and then you focus on that, you'll get more and more of them, won't you? Whereas if you've got a negative, say, for example, like posting, say at the beginning, I wouldn't want to post a video of me online. I could have, oh, what will people say? Or I could go, well, you know, it might not be perfect, but it's a start, and you only get better by doing it. And if I focus on that, then I don't focus on the negative spiral. Yeah. So
this is a good way to train yourself in a healthy way. And this is what, for me personally, when it comes to anxiety, you know, to train myself. I was a very pessimistic person, so everything was negative. Like I lived by the nothing's go off, it can go wrong, it will go wrong. Yeah. So I actually had to retrain my brain into positivity. So that's actually a good method in changing from negative thoughts, is for every negative thought, replace it with 3 positive ones. Now, that's not ignoring your anxiety or depression, but that's trying to retrain your mind from pessimism into optimism.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's where affirmations exactly. Huh?
It's once again when you say it.
When,
it? You know?
Exactly.
And you're that's saying it when somebody is in the middle of an anxiety attack. Oh,
yeah, exactly.
That's not going to help. You've got to let them have the space to process that, and then.
And it's being aware as well, because, you know, I can have a negative thought and it could be a part of if there's a difference. Like, you know, sometimes the negative thought could be just a fear-based false belief. So we have to start being aware of, is this a true thought, or is it actually just a part of that false belief system? So there's the kind of, it's just to be self-aware, because, like, you know, I had a few things to work on this week, and those negative thoughts I have to sit with, and I have to ask myself, were these even my thoughts? You know, I'm in knowing that they weren't my own, I was able to clear them. But if something is my own, you get to dissect it and figure it out. So, you know, I'm trying, you know, there is ways of using affirmations, gratitude, and positive, you know, thoughts to create a positive mindset. But it's also not ignoring your emotions and feelings in the moment of that spiral or depression.
Yeah, because if you've got what we would class normally as a negative emotion, it's your body trying to tell you something to look at, something that you need to work on or release. Yeah. So how can we be positive without being toxically positive? So how can we give space for our negative emotions or our difficulties and still have a positive mindset? So one way we can do that is reframing, and reframing doesn't have to be, if you're finding, say I'm no good at computers or something, and I'm like, oh no, I've got to learn this new thing, and I'm no good with computers. So I've got a negative belief already that I don't like computers, but that I'm no good at computers. But I'm anxious about that. Instead of saying I'm no good at computers, you can say, acknowledge that you find it difficult. So it's like, I find learning ICT stuff tricky, but I know that with practice that I'm going to get better. And then it's not just going, oh, I'm good at computers. I mean, you can do that in affirmations, actually. You can trick your subconscious on board, but reframing can just be taking out stopping it being so negative, making it progressive. That's the key. So instead of saying I can't do this, it's that I find it difficult, but I can work on this.
Yeah, I'm willing to try.
With
That's it.
help,
Like,
I can get better.
exactly. And we can all get good at things. And, that's the thing with the negative belief system, and how we speak to ourselves as well. Calling yourself stupid for making a mistake, for dropping something, reprimanding yourself. This is all negative self-talk. And you're going to end up making yourself depressed by speaking ill to yourself. So you can use positive affirmations to build a better mind for yourself. And as you said, instead of saying, I can't do this or I'm afraid to do this, say, this might be something I'm new to, but I can learn it.
Yeah, yeah. So another example from my life is a few months ago, I think it was maybe September time, my children were walking home from school and a knife was pulled out on them. And so obviously I got all the fear and, like, are they even safe on the street? And then trying to get school to help with the situation, because it was a child that was also in the same school, trying to get the police to do anything. Then I was frustrated about it. And would have been very easy to go, oh, it's all scary. Let's all be scared. It's not safe outside. But I use gratitude to really help me navigate that. So what I did was look for what I could gain out of it. And now, the conversations that I had with the children around safety and around, because the child brought this knife out he was like, he said it was a joke, and I was like, did it feel like a joke? Like, is that how it felt? And he was like, well, no. And I was like, well, sometimes people say things so that they can get away with it. He's told you it was a joke, but actually there was a message for you there to not mess with him. So, and on other conversations about how he himself was behaving, because he was being rowdy on the street. So you attract negative energy. You attract people, and I'm not saying it was his fault, that situation at all. It wasn't his fault. He was a victim there. But it's about, I had conversations about how they could carry themselves better on the street, what to do if something like that happened again. I was like, just run home. You were only around the corner. You didn't need to stand your ground in that situation. You could have just run away. And so all those conversations that we had were conversations that wouldn't have happened had that situation not happened. And yes, it was awful. It was awful for the children. It was awful time for me. It was very difficult to remain positive. It was difficult, but I was giving myself time to go, wow, this was this was scary. The children would be scared about it, and it was able to have wonderful conversations that wouldn't have happened otherwise. So I was grateful for that. And so it wasn't ignoring the fact that it was a terrible situation. It was acknowledging that it was a terrible situation, but trying to see how that terrible situation could be moved into something that was positive. Yeah,
definitely. It led to a better awareness of the thing, and it led, even though you could have spiraled into the whole this isn't safe, you actually made the environment more safe because of the conversations you had.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a look. That's what I've got for this. So have you got any other examples of
Well,
how
this is just the simple things of there can be a positive to every negative situation. Like, we see obstacles as challenges, but an obstacle is actually our detour or delay. It's there to say, here, slow down. Is there another way around? And I use this analogy all the time. Like, if we keep bullheading forward and trying to get through a wall, blindly, we're never going to get through that wall. But if we step back for a minute, we can see the door. So therefore, you can, if you don't spiral into the negative, you can actually see that there is that silver lining there. And oftentimes this is the thing with our mindset as well. If one negative thing happens, we can say another negative thing happens, another negative thing happens. We say, oh, I've had a run of bad luck. But that's your mindset. You just think, oh, and I've seen this, when I was a supervisor before, if somebody made one mistake, the whole day they would continuously make mistakes because all they would be thinking about is that first mistake.
Yeah,
so this is how you actually try and change your mind into seeing a positive and use that as a motivator instead. Change that negative belief into a positive belief. See that there is a message in everything that we do. And I used a simple example last week. Like, I went to pump up my tires and there was a car already there. And normally I just leave it and I'd go back another day. And I said, no, I'm going to just put it behind her. And, normally I would think that was frustrating. But then guess what happened? A truck tried to pull in and he was blocking the road. And normally I would have gone, Jesus, this is so frustrating. I'm just going to drive off and just do my shopping, whatever. But he got out of the truck and he asked us to move. Really friendly person, really, really nice. And I just, turned the car around, did my tires. And then the rest of the day, I was out shopping and everyone on the street was friendly because I was like, normally something like that would make me so frustrated. And I just took it that person, like, if I hadn't have done that or if all these negative things didn't happen, that guy wouldn't have been so nice and wouldn't have brightened up my day. So we have to instead of thinking of everything being frustrating or negative, take that step back, see the bigger picture and say, what can I learn from this? What can I make out of this to create, better outlook into it? Like what you did with your kids. And like you mentioned this before with you and Elliot going playing football. And you were kind of frustrated because you don't like your football. You tell the story because I think that's a lovely analogy as well.
So, going to the park, Elliot wants to play football and I'm not really good at football. I'm not really interested in football, but he's 11 and a half. And I would find myself looking at my phone and thinking, oh, has it been long enough yet? Do you think we'll get away with leaving now? And I keep looking at my phone and then I had to have a little word with myself because he's probably not going to want to play football with his mum for much longer. And when that's gone, I'm going to miss that. And so I was like, this is quality time with him. And whether I enjoy football or not, I enjoy his company. And I was able to view it differently so that I actually enjoyed it. I was savoring it rather than, it's like that. So instead of saying I have to, it's saying I get to, isn't it? That's such a powerful
it really is.
Shift. And it sounds
really
silly, but if you find yourself saying I have to do this, I have to do that, then just try changing it to actually I get to do this. I get to do that.
Yeah.
Because
it does shift your mind so completely. Like, because we're always feel like this is a chore, this is a struggle, this is this is a pain or whatever. But think of it, like, you have the opportunity to do this. You have the ability to do this. You might say, oh, I have to cook the dinner now. No, you get to cook the dinner. You get to eat that food. You get to play football with your son. You get to spend time with your son. You don't have to. You get to. And a lot of people mightn't have those opportunities. We're so blessed to have these things, and there's so many things that we as humans bitch about, and say, oh, that's frustrating, or I don't want to do this. But you're getting to do this. You have the opportunity to do this. And it helps you to appreciate those little things. And instead of being frustrated by something, you can actually see that there's a blessing in there.
Yeah, it's just like moaning about the weather. It's like it's like a cultural thing, isn't it? That we're
Especially
like
for Ireland and England.
yeah, small talk.
Yeah.
I don't have
But like,
anything much to say.
it's a
So
simple thing. And yeah, my post person came in one day and she turned around and was like, it was pissing rain, like, and she's like, oh, it's miserable, isn't it? And she literally just said, it's miserable. Not the weather's miserable. And it's just like saying, overall, it's miserable. No, this is the thing, like, if we hated rain, and I used to hate rain, but you're living in a country where it rains all the time, therefore you hate every day. And I'm like, that has to change or I'm going to be depressed every single day. So now I don't hate the rain. I actually love it. I go out and I stand under it. I get refreshed by it. I don't hate it anymore. I love the sound of the rain. You know what I mean? I started to change my mindset of it. Now I don't look out and say it's miserable. I say that's a grand, refreshing, day. We're getting cleansed. And that's it. And instead of, it's just weather. And if it's cold outside, I'm like, it's grand, fresh morning. That kind of way, instead of saying, jeez, it's freezing. Just, it's fresh. And changing those little words can change your outlook on the whole day. It's not miserable. It's actually beautiful.
It doesn't have to be the big things. It doesn't have to start with the big things, does it? So like checking out what is your go-to small talk? Is it to moan about something? And can you change that go-to small talk to something that is positive?
Oh, you're actually reminded me of something else here. In Ireland, it's either the weather or the person down the road died. I'd be walking down the street in Middleton, and I swear to God, I walked past these two people one day, and all they were talking about was who died. I'm like, Jesus, liven up and they talk about the flowers, talk about anything but this negative energy. Like, it's just, oh, please,
and
please talk about something positive.
Your energy affects other people's energy. So if your go-to thing to say to people is the weather is crap, then often the person will reciprocate that. So you passed on your little negative nugget there, haven't you? Like if you could be the person that can walk into a room and say, isn't it a beautiful day? Or say something good that's happened